Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Mr. Fix-It channel. Today I've got a chainsaw on my bench and it needs a little bit of work. Stay tuned.
I was sitting out there in the shed one evening, not doing too much of nothing, just kind of staring at the wall. And
okay, looking down the exhaust port, see the piston in there. Yeah, she's done. So what that means is, since buying the Stihl manufactured parts, the OEM equipment for this chainsaw is actually quite expensive, and an older saw like this, a smaller, 180, is not, it's not really worth, is it? Is it worth all the money that you would spend? So the selection here is Chinese. So let's see if we can make this Chinese cylinder and piston, make this saw run again, and two, make it run reliably. I don't know, let's get into this. I guess what I'm saying here is how much wood could this woodchuck chuck if this woodchuck could chuck wood? But we're gonna find out. Alright, so absolutely the first thing that needs to happen is I need to disassemble this saw and make sure that is the right parts for this saw. So where do we start here? I guess we should start and make sure that there's no fuel or oil in it. I guess that'd be a good place to start. Yeah, there is a bit of fuel. Let's get that out of there. And a bit of oil. So we'll have to drain both of these, and I guess we'll start there. It looked like it had water mixed in it. Hold on. Whenever you see a milky color in your gasoline, yeah, that's usually water. I know this is a water jug and it does have some water in it, but let's just use this. Okay, yeah, there's definitely water mixed in that gas. You see it there? Definitely water mixed in it. So that didn't help the saw at all, any, to begin with. So glad we're getting that out of there. Nothing wrong with that. Alright, starting with the basics, we'll get this cover off. Guess we'll get this handle off. Gotta pop out these plugs. If this has never been apart before, then these can be in here pretty tight. Alright, let's start taking out all the screws now. Just gonna reach down here with a hook and try to get this out of there. These things are always a pain in the ass. Wobbin', wobbin'. Go ahead and pull the clutch off. This little E-clip on here. Get that guy off. Pull the sprocket out. Don't forget your little pilot bearing there. Pretty sure I made a tool for this. I wonder if I can find it. Here is said tool. Get in there. Alright, this is reverse thread. Take that out. We got the oil drive pump gear. Take that out. Go ahead and take the carburetor off. Been a while since I've been in one of these. Let's see the choke. I think the choke just pops out of here. Get the fuel line off of there. See, I think we gotta pop this whole lever out. Pull up on that, and it slides out the side. I got the kill switch wire, gotta get that off of there. That should slide out the side over here. It comes out the side. That comes out like that. Take that out of there. And pull the carburetor off. Wob 'em, wob 'em, wob 'em. Go ahead and get the spark plug off. Well, it looks like a brand new spark plug. Okay, ignition coil. That's tight to get a socket. It's hung up on this wire. Peel it out of there. There's the coil off of there. There's this little plastic spacer behind the coil. Yeah, let's go ahead and take the case apart. So we got 4 bolts underneath here. We got the intake boot to deal with now. Careful not to rip this thing. And there's the engine. Not much compression left in there. Got 4 bolts on the bottom of the case, engine case. We can get these out. Try to get some of this crud off of here before we split this thing open. I'm just kind of prying off the case here. Some silicone in there. Oh yeah, look at that. Chewed right up. Alright, there's no play in the connecting rod bearing, which that's good because I didn't get those parts. So just need to take the piston off of the rotating assembly. I'm going to leave the whole bottom end of this together, basically. I mean, I can pull this off instead of the side. Just got to make sure you put that back on the same way. So it's got like this little tab sticking off the clutch side, so we'll make sure we put that back on the same way. We'll want to clean that up. Bearings feel okay, that's good because I didn't get any more of them. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the piston off and I'm going to clean this crankshaft up real good and we'll start putting it back together. There's that little groove right there. You just want to stick your pick in there and pop this thing out. And we can push the wrist pin out. Did this come with a new wrist pin? Oh, let's get into this, find out what we got in here. Yep, it came with a new wrist pin. Okay. There's the piston. Yeah, that definitely got some heat on it. So the piston ring alignment pins are on the intake side. So we'll make sure we put the new piston on the same way. But first I want to get this cleaned up. And I think I'm just going to drop this in the ultrasonic cleaner. And then we'll go from there. Should probably take this flywheel. Let me take the flywheel off of it. I wasn't going to do that, but let's take that off of there. It looks like a 13 maybe. Yeah, that's a 13. So usually, let me go grab my ball peen. So I'm just gonna thread this nut back down there, but not all the way. Run it down, but not all the way. Take the end, your ball end of your ball peen, and sometimes that works. It's not going to work in this case, of course, because I'm on camera. There we go. There's the flywheel off. So there's that seal. That's the flywheel side seal. So I'm going to put it over here with the flywheel. And the clutch side seal. Oh, there's a C-clip on here, so you can get that off of there. So a little C-clip. It goes on the clutch side. We'll put that over here with the clutch. I'll take the clutch side seal carefully, because you got that groove where that C-clip is. Don't tear this seal. So gently, gently get it past that. We'll take that off of there. Okay, I'm going to stick this in the ultrasonic cleaner and just make sure it's clean. Alright, let's go ahead and get the piston assembled here. I'm going to get the clips out, the wrist pin clips. I'm going to go ahead and install one of these in the piston. Make sure it's snapped in the groove. Get the wrist pin and put a little oil on it. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the wrist pin bearing. Alright, this is the clutch side. This is on the right side of the saw, right? So this is the flywheel side, so the intake is towards us. So we're going to take the two little alignment pins for the piston rings and we're going to put them to us. There's an arrow pointing towards the exhaust port. I'll go ahead and start the wrist pin into the piston. Slip it through the wrist pin bearing. Install that like that. And then get your other clip in. Don't let this thing go flying across the room. You'll never see it again. Just make sure you get it in there until you hear it click into place. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the piston ring grooves. Okay, these piston rings, I don't know if you can see this or not. So these rings, they have a weird shape to the end of them. Can you see that? So that goes around that alignment pin and it's kind of like cut out like in a half circle, semicircle. You can just slip this on here. Kind of walk it into place. There's little cutouts in the piston rings that go around that pin. Just make sure you get those set in there so that they go around that pin. Make sure you get some oil down in the connecting rod bearing. Get some oil down in the crank main bearings. A little bit of oil on the shaft where the seal rides. Flywheel side seal, we'll get that on there. And then the clutch side seal, put that back on there. Be careful with that groove, you don't want to tear your seal, so just gently twist and kind of rock it and get it on there. You don't want to just shove that thing on there. Then we have the C-clip. We got to put that back on. Careful, this thing will go flying across the room. Got that in place. And then that's a crankshaft reassembled. And of course my tube of silicone is kind of set up there. Just going to take a poke a whole little hole right here. Maybe it's liquid behind there. It is not. Dang it. There we go. There's some. Gotta do what you gotta do, right? So I'm just gonna squeeze some of this out here, and I'm gonna put it on the bottom of the engine case right here. Just a little bit. Don't go freaking crazy with this. And put a little bit down where the seal goes. Just a little. And we're going to take and put a little bit of oil in the cylinder. Rub it in. Again, a little bit of sealant where the seal goes. Okay, this is the intake side, that's the exhaust side. So I want to put the intake facing that way. I'm going to take the crankshaft. I'm going to make sure the arrow is pointing towards the exhaust port, and make sure the piston rings are lined up with the alignment pins. I'll put this thing in. If you have to, get a little pick down in here to compress the rings. Make sure your seals get lined up. Like so. Remember that little tab goes to the clutch side. Go ahead and put this on like so. And put the 4 screws back in. Tighten these evenly in a crisscrossing pattern. And there's the engine reassembled. I'm just going to put the flywheel back on loosely here and spin the engine and check for any binding or anything. Yeah, that feels just fine. And there we go. Okay, now this is reassembled, we can go ahead and put the rest of the saw back together. So I'm just going to rotate this down until the piston's covering up the intake port there and the exhaust port so nothing falls in there. Throw the spark plug in. And then that's all sealed up. We can go ahead and put this in the saw. I went and cleaned all the parts up the best I can. So now we just need to stick this guy back in here. Just using a pick to kind of pull this boot back. Careful, you don't want to rip this thing. So when you're putting the engine in there, you really got to watch out. You can see there's that little hole in the intake boot. In the cylinder there's a hole there. This is for the fuel pump. So inside that boot you'll have a ring that goes around, and you'll also have like a little tube that sticks into this hole here. And if you've got this together and you can look down in there, and you can see a bit of that hole in the cylinder exposed, you don't have this in right. So you gotta fiddle with this thing until you get that tiny hole right there into the hole on the cylinder. It's best to put the intake boot on the cylinder and then feed it through the body. Just be careful you don't poke a hole in it. No matter which way you do it, it's going to be a pain in the ass. You're going to want it to look like that. Okay, put the 4 bolts back in the bottom. Flywheel back on here. Got this little plastic piece that goes up underneath the coil there. We'll stick the coil in. One of these wires has an eyelet on it. That needs to go back on through that bolt. Get that little plastic piece on there like that. Don't lose the washer. Just run them down, don't tighten them yet. Okay, now you're going to want to grab a business card, and there's the magnets on the flywheel. So you're going to stick the business card in under the coil and then rotate the magnets around, and it'll let them pull the coil down onto the business card, and this will set the gap. Make sure these are good and tight, and you can pull the business card out, and now the gap's set for the coil. We got another wire we got to plug in to the coil right here. Alright, that little clip holds both these wires and the spark plug wire. Now this gray wire, there's a hole back in here. Feed that guy through the hole. Clip it in back here. The orange wire, clip it in right there. And then it hooks on this round deal there. That little post sticking up. Okay, and then the gray wire on the inside here. There's kind of a groove right in here where it sits. So you gotta tuck it down in there. And go ahead and put the pull start cover back on. Alright, these are plastic threads, so turn it backwards and you'll feel it drop into the thread and then screw it in. Otherwise you're going to mess up the threads. Don't cross thread, it's what I'm saying. Got this little screw, goes into the safety lock lever. I guess that's what you would call that thing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the clutch. We've got the oil pump drive. Goes in like this. Then we got this disc. We want the part that says top, we want it up. And we got the clutch. Remember, this is left-hand thread. You don't have to worry about getting that too tight, because as soon as you start cutting, it's going to tighten itself. So just get it on there. Now we're going to install the pilot bearing and put a little bit of oil on that guy. Next we're going to put the clutch drum on. Now down in there, there's a wire for that oil pump drive. It's kind of hanging out the side right here, and in this clutch drum there's a notch. So engage that notch with that wire in there. And we got this washer and the E-clip. Hang on to this thing because it will want to fly off. across the room and you'll never see it again. Okay, go ahead and get the exhaust back on. These two studs just kind of slide into the side here. Get the one on. And then this goes in like this, and it's got a hook in behind here. And go ahead and get your other stud in. Slide that all the way back. Now you can slide the muffler on. Now there's the spark arrestor. If you're ever having trouble with your saw and you just can't figure it out, you've been through the carburetor, spark plug, everything, and it just won't run right, this might be clogged. And then we got the outer piece and then the two nuts. There's this little white plastic ring. Make sure you put that back in here. And I gotta pull the fuel line back out of the way. Set the carburetor on. And you can put your fuel line on. The throttle lever has this hook like this. You hold it like this and turn it down into the slot and get the choke rod installed. Put it in that hole, push it over. Pull this tab up, this metal tab. Snap that in place, and you can put the wire in. Make sure it's fed all the way in to place there. That way when you flip that up, that makes contact with that metal tab, and that shuts off the engine. And then this end of the choke rod goes, you can pull the choke up, pull the choke closed, and you can shove it through on the side. That way when you pull that down, it closes the choke. Off, run, choke. I got my rod on top of the choke. Okay, we got this part here. This goes in with the writing out, and it slips right into place here. And then the air box. We got the two nuts for the air box. Okay, now probably the trickiest thing to do on this saw is to get this handguard back on. Okay, got that one started. Got that one in. There we go, there's that one in. That one. And the last one. Come on. This one's hard to work around because it's got these bucking spikes on here. Oh, it's almost there. Almost. There it is. Oh, not quite. There it is. Okay. Pop these plugs back in. And then you get the throttle trigger hooked up here. Alright, throttle trigger. See, this spring hooks up into the safety catch. Throttle lever hooks on there. Oop. Right in that slot right there. Now what's left to do is put the cover back on the top. She's got compression. I just need to put some gas and some oil in it, and we'll fire it up and break it in. Alright, place your bets. how many pulls will it take? 3, 5, 79. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I probably fouled the plugs of all the oil in the cylinder. I'm going to try again. I never heard this saw run. It may need some adjustments done to it, but it started, right? And the kill switch works. Alright, now I guess the next thing is to put the bar and chain back on it and go cut some wood gently, you know, gently. I'm wearing holy jeans today, so I'm going to get some sawdust in my boots. Don't just fire these things up cold and go right to cutting. Let it warm up a little bit. Of course the chain is dull as... Alright, I went and sharpened the chain. Let's see if this does any better. It's a little bit of an adjustment on the low side. Alright, I'm going to call that fixed. Now, I've done another one of these saws with the same cylinder kit a few years ago, and I use it every winter. I cut about 6 cords every winter for firewood, and it's done good. So I wouldn't be afraid of the $20 Amazon cylinder for this saw. Well, the saw's all back together. Seems like it runs fine. A few adjustments and a little bit of screwing around with that rubber boot, and it's all back together. $20. Rebuilt this saw. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and don't be afraid to fix it. Thanks for watching.